right, so the latest on Kohberger. The unsealed records. The defense filed a motion to dismiss the death specification. The basis is they're saying that Kohberger suffers from an intellectual disability. He's autistic. So in the United States, if you are a juvenile or you suffer from an intellectual disability, they can't put you to death. I don't think it's a winning argument. The problem with it is they have tried this before, and autism does not qualify in the eyes of the law as an intellectual disability. That people with autism are permitted to be put to death. And now I'm sure there's ranges and case by case, but generally if you're autistic, that's not going to be a reason that the state of Idaho in this matter can't seek the death penalty. So the defense is trying to say, look, judge, they can't even seek the death penalty. He suffers from an intellectual disability. Again, that's a losing argument in my opinion. Now, when can they use that? They can use that if he's found guilty. If he's found guilty, then in the sentencing phase or the death phase, they can argue that his autism was a factor and ask a jury to consider that and not put him to death based upon it. So we'll see what happens though. Next, Madison Mogen, one of the victims, had DNA under her fingernails. There was a mixture of 3 different DNA samples. Inconclusive. So the defense likely will file a motion in limine trying to prohibit the state of Idaho from using the evidence of inconclusive DNA. The reason being is because if an expert on DNA takes the stand and says, yeah, there was DNA under her fingernails, which would suggest that she was fighting back, and it's inconclusive. But the prosecutor can then ask that witness, well, just because it's inconclusive, does that exclude the defendant, Bryan Kohberger? And the answer to that would be no, it doesn't exclude him. Inconclusive just means that exactly. It's inconclusive. The state will likely want that to come in. The defense will likely not. The defense would likely argue that it can confuse a jury, and the fact that he's not excluded, can be prejudicial to him or mislead a jury. So we'll see what happens. They also released some text messages. Kind of reads like a horror movie, quite frankly. One of the victims and one of the surviving roommates were texting back and forth, and at one point somebody says run, and there's a man in the house with a mask and bushy eyebrows. So I'm sure that this was a terrorizing just event, and I'm sure the surviving roommate really has some trauma from all this, I would imagine. So, but anyways, that's the latest on the case. There'll be more trials coming near. The closer you get to trial, the more evidence you're going to hear. So whether it's good for Kohberger, bad for Kohberger, good for the defense, bad for the state, who knows? It'll all come out though.